Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Singer Dad Reacts. My name is Josh, and I've been away for a while. Been dealing with a lot of things in my life, but happy to be back. I want to record two or three reactions tonight, and then I'll have some queued up that I can post later on this week and get more on a regular schedule. Um, I really feel like the channel is more of a priority for me now, and I really want to re-engage and get back on track with my reactions. So thank you all so much for your patience. Um, so this is an artist that I'm reacting to today that I've wanted to react to for a while. Um, what I didn't realize is that I had heard her voice from different pop songs that are mainstream pop songs and stuff. My boys basically explained that to me and said, "Yeah, you know who she is," and they played a little excerpt from one of her songs and stuff. So that's why I put on the video that's the first time watching her, but it's not the first time hearing her, because I have heard her um, in some of those songs. So, but this is definitely the first time watching her and seeing her in a full performance. So, as far as choosing the song, I really wanted to kind of pick something that would show off her voice. I did a reaction to Sohyang singing "I Have Nothing," and it's to this day my favorite version of that song by any singer. I think she did it better than anybody, in my opinion. So I wanted to kind of get a good comparative contrast of what Jessie J can do with it, because I've heard that she has an amazing voice. And so I'm excited to listen to her and see what she brings to the song. This version is the one I believe that is recommended from the reaction thumbnails that I've seen. Um, and it's from the Singer 2018 episode 2. So with that, I'll jump in. One of the things, if you're new to my channel, that I do is I actually read through the lyrics and talk about what's meant to be communicated from the lyrics and the story of the song, and you know what that entails, and that gets incorporated in my reaction, because then I'm more familiar with what the message of the song is, and I can pick up some of the nuances and more of the texture of and the story of what's being sung. So if you're not into that part of my reaction, feel free to skip ahead directly to the reaction. For those that are interested, I will pull that up here. So "I Have Nothing" was written by David Foster and Linda Thompson. And these are the lyrics that I have here. "Share my life, take me for what I am, 'cause I never change all my colors for you. Take my love, I'll never ask for too much, just all that you are and everything that you do. I don't really need to look very much further. I don't want to have to go where you don't follow. I won't hold it back again, this passion inside. I can't run from myself, there's nowhere to hide. Don't make me close one more door. I don't want to hurt anymore. Stay in my arms if you dare. Must I imagine you there? Don't walk away from me, I have nothing. If I don't have you, you see through right to the heart of me. You break down my walls with the strength of your love. I have nothing. I don't really need to look very much further." So it repeats the main part of the chorus here. "This passion inside, I can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide. Your love I remember forever." And then it repeats the chorus. Yeah, so it repeats the chorus several times. "Don't walk away from me. Don't walk away from me" is repeated. "Don't you dare walk away from me." So the whole thing seems to me like it's a petition from the person singing the song to the love of their life to not leave, and to stay and be with them, and not walk away, right? it speaks of like a soulmate, basically, that you see through right to the heart of me. You break down my walls. Those are words that describe someone that is really a soulmate and someone that's very, very close to the person singing the song. You break down my walls with the strength of your love. So it sounds like this person's been really guarded in the past, and it has trouble letting people in, and that the love of their life they're singing to here has broken down those walls with the strength of their love. I don't want to hurt anymore. Stay in my arms if you dare. Must I imagine you there? Don't walk away from me. Don't you dare walk away from me. So it's almost like the fact that phrase is repeated 3 times, and the last version of that phrase is, don't you dare walk away from me. It's like a final desperate plea to this love of their life to not walk away, right? And to reiterate the main core message of the song, which is, I have nothing if I don't have you, right? So that's kind of how it ends. So that's my take on this song based on the lyrics. I'm always interested if you have other, comments, or more about kind of the origin of the song. And I believe, if memory serves me, that this song was created for the movie The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. I believe that's about when it came out, and it was kind of, I don't know if it was written for the movie or if they just used it in the movie, and that was one of her kind of core songs that she sang in the movie, because I know it was part of the soundtrack. So feel free to comment on that if you know more about that story and where the song came from. With that, I will jump into the reaction. So if you're new to my channel, or if you haven't already, if you could please click on the subscribe button, click on the notifications bell. Like I said, I will be doing at least 2 or 3 reactions tonight, and we're recording them and then posting them later this week. So like I said, I'm going to get on track here. I know I've said that before, and I apologize that I haven't really followed through on that like I should have, but I really do want to get back on track with the channel and interact with you again. I miss my interactions with all of you, my viewers, and those that have been loyal. I really appreciate it. So anyway, with that, let's jump in and see what Jessie J's got here.
Share my life, take me for what I am, 'cause I'll never change all my colors for you.
She's got an interesting timbre to her voice. There's kind of like this, there's kind of a depth to it. A lot of the women that I've heard sing this song, they have kind of more of a brightness to their sound. But she has kind of more of like kind of a rich kind of depth. It's hard to describe, but kind of like almost like a deeper tone on the as far as the timbre of her voice. I wasn't expecting that. Interesting. But yeah, her tone is great so far. I mean, I'm early in the song here. Sorry, I try not to pause too much, but if I don't, then a lot of times my videos will get blocked. So.
Take my love, I've never asked for too much, just all that you are.
No, those are cool inflections.
You do.
Ooh, nice. she's got an interesting vibrato as well. It's like, and it seems to be happening at the end of the phrases, right? It's not like a consistent vibrato throughout each phrase, throughout every note that she's singing. It's more something that kind of at the end of kind of the long notes that she's holding, it comes through more. And that tells me that most likely she comes from more of a pop background and less of a classical background, unless she just is able to control her vibrato and only allow it to come through at certain points. So that is also an option. But my guess is that her background is more from the contemporary, like the pop side of things. So you guys can comment on that if you want. But yeah, she's doing a really good job so far.
Where you don't follow, I can hold it back again. This passion inside can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide.
She's putting her own stamp on it as far as like the little ha-ha. Oh, that's cool. Wow. She's got kind of like a gravelly tone there, especially like when she's going up into some of these high notes and stuff. That's interesting. Which is really just kind of aspect of the voice that comes through on certain notes or in a certain part of a singer's range, where she's got a little bit of the gravelly tone coming through on the higher stuff. Let's go back. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You hear that right there? Oh, that's cool. Wow. So she definitely has good control, and it doesn't really look like she's, at this point anyway, having to really struggle to hit the notes. It looks like she's got it well supported, and I love how she's adding little riffs at the end of some of the phrases and stuff like that, and kind of, doing her own thing and adding her own, her own special twist to the performance, her own stamp of uniqueness, right? That's awesome. Okay, let's see what she's going to do from here. Before I go on here, the other thing I wanted to mention, I love how expressive she is with like her arms and in kind of her gestures. It adds a lot to the song. That's one of the things that So Young is really good at as well, as far as like, expressing herself with gestures and body movement and things like that. And it also helps as a vocalist. It helps when you do that as well, because you're adding vocal energy to the sound that's coming through, and that's going to give it more connection and more power and vibrance, right? So it's a good thing. The audience is loving her.
You see through right to the heart.
She has a nice open mouth.
You break down my walls with the strength of your love. Yes, I never knew.
Oh, that's cool. She changed it up a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, she's mixing it up a little bit and making it her own. I give her all the props for that. That's great. Um, that's one of the things, if you've watched my reactions, that I really enjoy, is when a singer just really tries to personalize the way they sing the song and make it different, make it their own, without taking too much away from the original, right? If when singers change up the melody completely and completely alter a song, especially one that's, you know, such a hallmark and a staple of our pop culture, like this one, I don't like that as much. But when you do some of the things that she's doing, where you kind of change it up a little bit as far as the phrasing and the notes a little bit, in some of the phrases and things like that, then that's great. You're just making your own without impacting the core melody. So she's doing great. And so far, like I said, she's not struggling at all with any of these vocals. And as I mentioned, she's got a really nice open mouth. That's part of when you receive vocal training, they talk about that, as far as, because this really, you think of the mouth as kind of like the speaker, if you will, like a speaker on a stereo is where the sound comes through. This is the equivalent of that on your body. So like when you sing, if the way you shape the vowels, the way you open or move your tongue, all these different things affect the quality, the texture, and the power of the sound, right? So that's why a lot of, when you see an opera singer really go for it, they're really like opening up and putting a lot of air behind it. And, you know, that's part of why opera works that way. Classical singing works that way, because a lot of times they're singing without a microphone to a large audience. They have to generate this power. So she has some of those principles going on. Her mouth is still kind of spread a little bit more than what you would see normally with a classical type performance, but she's definitely doing which is fine. You don't always have to have, I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, if you don't sing it with, you know, classical type mouth shapes and all this stuff, then it's not correct. I'm not one of those guys, right? So, but there are certain core principles that carry over into other genres and types of singing, right? And that one of them is, you know, mouth shape and what you do with the sound with your soft palate and different things like that. So she has good habits with that, it looks like.
With the strength of your love.
Like you can see her cheeks are high. That means her soft palate is up. She's opening things up in the back. Yeah, you hear that kind of gritty sound. That was a cool gesture.
I don't really need to look very much further. I don't want to have to go where you don't follow.
This guy's into it.
Back again, this passion inside can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, see how open she is right there?
I'm remember forever.
That's cool. Yeah, little things like that where she's like made it her own, where she's holding that note out and she has like a dramatic pause leading into the next part of the song. She's really making it her own, and the audience, and this is one of the things I mentioned for other reactions that I've done that I watch for, and that is the reaction from the audience. How much are they enjoying it and loving it? Because it's one thing to watch a performance like this on a video, and it's another to be in the audience watching this live performance. So you can tell a lot by the power and the emotion and the strength of the performance from the audience and how they're reacting to it. So that's one of the things I watch for. Let's see what she's going to do next here.
Well, don't make me cry one more day. I don't wanna hurt anymore.
Oh, wow.
I must imagine you there. Don't walk away from me. No, I have nothing, nothing, nothing.
Oh, here's the key change. Well done. Sorry, I have to pause it. I haven't paused it in a little while. I kind of got sucked in there. Yeah, she's making it look easy. This is a very hard song to sing. I haven't personally tried to sing it. It's normally sung by a female, but everybody that I've seen talk about this song talks about how hard it is to sing. So props to her for even taking it on and being willing to try it out and make it her own. So she's doing a phenomenal job. I'm enjoying this. And like I said, she has specific stylistic things that she does, which seem to be really kind of Jessie J, and that is these little kind of riffs and runs that she's adding in, and holding notes out and stuff like that. So really cool stuff. Let me go back a little bit, make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, like what she did right there. Nice head voice. Oh, see how she added the growl in there? Yeah, she added that little head voice section in there where she kind of jumped up into the higher notes. So that's good to see that as well. You can kind of gauge her control, her ability to kind of navigate between the registers of her voice. I'm definitely after finishing this, I want to see more of her as far as impressive performances like this, where she's, really testing her voice out and kind of pushing the limits and bringing that wow factor to the performance, right? So be sure after the video to let me know in the comments what you would suggest that I react to. Because if you've watched my reactions long enough, that's the stuff that I love to see, and not just the vocal, acrobatics per se. I love to see that, but also just for a performer, an artist, to sing it with power and feeling and emotion and have it really mean something to them and communicate that with power to the audience, right? So those are the main things that I love to see and I watch for. So, but she's nailing this. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on her neck and her shoulders, because as I mentioned in other reactions, a lot of times when singers are singing something that's really high like this, and they are stretching forward and really, if they're having to kind of push for it, sometimes you'll see tightness in the neck. You'll see the neck bulge and the veins kind of pop out, kind of the Bruce Springsteen thing. Or you'll see the shoulders kind of tighten up or move forward or tense. But I haven't seen any of that with her. So just like right here, in this frame here, you can tell she's kind of, and this is where I think she goes up into her head voice. And what a lot of, especially female vocalists, will do when they kind of go up into their head voice, they'll use a thing that's called twang to kind of trigger that mechanism. And so if you look like her expression, where it's like this, where you can see a lot of her teeth and her cheeks are up like that, that's one of those things you can see that's characteristic to kind of slipping into that, the kind of twang and the kind of head voice mechanism of the voice. And there's nothing wrong with that, of doing it that way. That's a perfectly natural way to slip into your head voice. And if you listen to the way that she sounds during that section, she sounds great. It doesn't sound, forced or, pushed or anything like that. Sometimes when people go into their head voice or they belt, it has this really sharp sound to it. And I don't like it when I hear a female voice, especially when they do that. Yeah, it's the example that comes to me, and some people are not going to agree with this opinion, but I want to say it was like the original Fontaine in Les Mis. She's like she's in this dying moment on her deathbed, and then she sings this part of the song, and she's up in her head voice, she's belting, and it's like super sharp and kind of loud for the moment, and it's like I don't really care for that style of belt, and especially in that particular situation, in that moment of the story, right? It just didn't come across well for me. But so that's kind of what I'm talking about. But she's fine. Let's listen to it again here. Yeah, see? Oh, that growl. That was cool.
If
Uh,
I don't have you. I don't have you.
oh, wow.
Shishin, thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah, so I like, especially at the very end there, where you could tell that she really was, it seemed like she had a moment there at the very end where she was maybe thinking about somebody or thinking about something recent that she's had, where she's experienced this feeling of, I have nothing if I don't have you. That it seemed to kind of just come through at the very end there. And I love, like, in those phrases where, and this is part of what I like about her voice, is that there were a lot of different textures represented in her performance. So I kind of pointed out the head voice part, and there were parts where she was doing riffs and things like that, and the growling part. And then at the very end, she kind of added a little more depth to her vibrato. It was like, if I don't, there was more kind of like fullness to her vibrato at the very end there, and kind of depth to her voice, kind of a darkness to it. And usually, like, if you get a dark sound like that, then what you're doing is you're taking the larynx and you're dropping it to some degree and kind of pulling it back a little bit so that it darkens the sound. It's a Diana Ankudinova type thing, right? That a vocalist can do to kind of darken it up. And she kind of did that a little bit at the end there. So I love it when a singer does that, when they kind of, for different parts of the song, they change the timbre and the texture of their voice. And because it's more like an artist. I've talked about that analogy as far as an artist and painting a picture. They're using different strokes, different brushes, different shades of different colors and textures on the canvas, right? And so that tells me that she's really like a professional artist, and she really internalizes the song and tries to make it her own and tries to really paint a unique picture with her performance. And so I was very impressed by her performance. It's a great performance of the song, and I like I said, I really want to hear more of her songs and watch her performances. But again, that's part of why you're here, to help me, because I don't know where to go from here. So if you guys could guide me and kind of suggest different performances of hers that are going to be, some of her best and the standout performances, I would greatly appreciate that. And what I do is, when I do more reactions, then once I do that second reaction for an artist, then I'll start a playlist on my channel. So if you're not familiar with that aspect of my channel, it's very important. I have people come in and they'll comment on a reaction I do for an artist, and they'll say, oh, you should go out and react to this song they did. And a lot of times I'll end up pointing them to my playlist. And I'll say, oh yeah, I've actually done a reaction to that. It's on the playlist for that artist on my channel. So if you're not familiar with that thing that I have on my channel, go check it out, and for each of the artists that you enjoy, and you can see all the different reactions I have to each artist. So with that, I'll go ahead and close my reaction the way that I always do, by reaching out to you across the world to let you know that you are special, you are loved, and you can accomplish your dreams. And you do have people that are a part of your life that love you. And I hope that you have the support that you need, and sources around you that will help you to be happy and lift you up in your time of need. And I hope that, as I mentioned in my other reactions, that somehow my channel in some small way can provide a lift through the music that we experience together. And again, thank you so much for your support, and take care.